The transmission cut off mid-scream. David Ross sat frozen in his office on Earth, listening to static where his sister's voice had been moments before. She had been calling from Redstone, the mining colony where she worked as a teacher. 3,000 people lived there. Children, families. Now they were gone. The orbital bombardment had lasted 17 minutes. Council enforcer ships had appeared without warning, their weapons tearing through the atmosphere like blue fire. The colony's emergency systems recorded everything before the power grid failed. Ross had watched the footage 3 times. The HAB domes cracking open, people running toward shelters that would never protect them, his sister trying to shield her students. His assistant entered. "The shuttle is ready, Ambassador. The Council has agreed to see you immediately." Ross nodded. He collected his tablet and headed for the roof. The flight to Unity Station would take 6 hours through the jump gate, 6 hours to prepare words that might prevent a war. Or start one. Unity Station floated in neutral space, a massive ring housing the Galactic Council. 200 species sent representatives here. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. Rows of seats rose in a semicircle, each occupied by beings representing civilizations spanning thousands of worlds. At the center, High Arbiter Solvin presided from an elevated throne. The Trell were an old species, their four-armed bodies covered in segmented plates that shifted color with their moods. Solvin's plates showed pale purple, mild annoyance. "Ambassador Ross," Solvin's voice came through the translation network. "We regret the incident at your colony. However, enforcement actions are sometimes necessary when newer species fail to observe proper protocols." Ross walked to the central podium. "You killed 3,000 people over protocols. The Outer Rim territories are protected zones," Solvin explained. "Your species was informed when you joined the galactic community." "We received no such information." Ross projected files into the air. Complete records of first contact, trade agreements, territorial discussions. The Outer Rim is never mentioned. Solvin's plates flickered darker. "Ignorance of the law is no excuse, Ambassador. Your people established an unauthorized settlement. We responded appropriately. You murdered children and call it appropriate. We eliminated a violation. This is how the Council maintains order. Every species learns this lesson eventually." Ross looked around the chamber. "Earth has 30 days to evacuate our colonies. Is that correct?" "Yes, any remaining settlements will face similar enforcement." "I see." Ross collected his tablet. "Then I have nothing more to say. My government will send its response." He walked toward the exit. Behind him, Solvin's voice followed. "Ambassador, we expect Earth to show proper respect. Your species is very new. It would be unfortunate if you failed to adapt." Ross stopped. "High Arbiter, you have no idea what Earth is capable of, but you will learn." The silence felt different. Several council members exchanged glances. A small Prin analyst named Tillich made a note. He had studied human history, fascinated by how quickly they went from primitive warfare to spaceflight. Something about the ambassador's tone bothered him. It sounded like a promise. Ross's shuttle departed 40 minutes later. By the time it reached the jump gate, every major government on Earth had received his report. Military commanders opened sealed files, contingencies everyone hoped would never be needed. Premier Helen Carter read the report, her expression unchanging. She opened a secure channel to Earth's military headquarters. "Begin Operation Reckoning. Full deployment." "Confirmed, Premier. How long do we have?" Carter looked at the timeline. 30 days before the Council expected compliance, but they would likely move sooner. Assume 2 weeks, maybe less. "Understood, we will be ready." Carter ended the call and stood. Outside, city lights gleamed against darkness. Humanity had built all this in just thousands of years. They had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, near extinction. They had climbed from caves to stars through determination. The council thought they were just another species to manage. They were about to learn otherwise. Tillich scrolled through data feeds for the 14th time, his small clawed hands moving across the holographic interface. The Prin were record keepers, analysts who maintained vast information networks. Most found it boring. Tillich found it fascinating. Especially now. 2 weeks had passed since Ambassador Ross left Unity Station. The Council expected Earth to evacuate colonies immediately. Instead, human civilian vessels were moving people to inner colonies, recognized territories. Military vessels were doing something else. High Arbiter Solvin, I need to show you something. Tillich projected his findings where Solvin reviewed daily reports. Analyst Tillich, what is so urgent? Tillich brought up tactical displays. Human military movements do not match retreat patterns. They have moved 60% of their fleet from home system, but tracking jump signatures shows they are not running. They are positioning along every approach route to Earth. So they plan to defend, predictable. No, sir, Tillich adjusted the display. These readings show vessels running silent, minimal power. They are hiding. The formation does not match defensive doctrine. What does it match? Tillich hesitated. Ambush formations. From their own military history. Humans have extensive records of pre-space naval warfare. They are very good at it. Solvin examined the data. How many ships does Earth possess? Official records show 340 registered military vessels. And our enforcement fleet? 500 warships, 40 different council species. Superior numbers, superior technology, thousands of years of experience. Then why do you look worried? Tillich pulled up another file. Because humans understand deception as military strategy. I have studied their history. They think about warfare differently than we do. The Council has fought and won conflicts against species far more developed than Earth. Your concern is noted and dismissed. Solvin returned to his throne. The enforcement fleet departs tomorrow. We will arrive at Earth's system, demonstrate our superiority, and this matter will be resolved. You may return to your duties. Tillich bowed and left, but the unease did not leave with him. That evening, he did something unprecedented for a Prin. He encrypted a message using personal codes and sent it to Earth's diplomatic network. It contained everything he knew about the Council fleet's composition, timing, and planned approach vectors. He did not know if the humans would receive it or trust it if they did. But the Prin had a saying, information wants to be free, even if it starts a war. On Earth, Helen Carter received Tillich's data and forwarded it immediately to Admiral Patricia Wung, who commanded Operation Reckoning from a flagship currently hiding in the asteroid belt beyond Mars. Wung studied the information with her senior staff, cross-referencing it with their own intelligence. He is right about our numbers, Wung said. We do not have 500 warships. Her tactical officer, Commander Raymond Cole, smiled. No, ma'am, we have 2,300. The difference came from a simple truth that the Council had never considered. When Earth joined the galactic community 20 years ago, they had done so as a unified planet. Every nation, every faction, every competing interest had looked at the vast and ancient civilizations surrounding them and reached the same conclusion: get strong or get conquered. The ships registered with the Council were the diplomatic fleet, the vessels Earth wanted the galaxy to see. The real military had been built in the outer solar system, in hidden shipyards around Jupiter's moons and Saturn's rings, using resources from the asteroid belt and ice from the Kuiper belt. 20 years of secret construction, using the technology Earth had traded for and then improved upon. They expect us to fight like them, Wung continued. Long-range energy weapons, shields, formation warfare. What are we actually going to do? Cole brought up the battle plan. We let them get close. We use the sun's gravity well and the asteroid fields. We hit them with kinetic weapons at point-blank range. Their shields are designed for energy dispersion, not physical impacts. And we do not stop. We swarm them, overwhelm them, and we make sure some of them escape to tell the council what happened. You want them to escape? Yes, ma'am. Dead men tell no tales, but scared ones tell everyone. We need the council to understand that enforcing their will on Earth comes at a cost they cannot afford. Wang nodded slowly. She had commanded a carrier group in the Pacific before taking this assignment. She understood the value of perception in warfare. What about casualties on our side? Estimated between 15 and 20% losses, ma'am. We are going to trade ships for psychological impact. It will hurt. War always does. Wang stood and addressed the room. All personnel prepare for combat operations. The Council fleet will be here in approximately 18 hours. Make sure every crew understands the stakes. We are not fighting for territory or resources. We are fighting so that the galaxy learns a simple lesson. You do not murder humans and walk away. The message went out across the hidden fleet. On 2,000 ships, crews that had trained in secret for years checked their systems and prepared. They were outgunned by Council standards. They were technologically inferior. They were the newcomers, the primitives, the species that was supposed to learn its place. They were also angry, coordinated, and had spent 20 years studying every battle the Council had ever fought. They knew the Council's tactics, their formations, their doctrine, and they had designed everything specifically to counter it. In the Council fleet approaching Earth, Admiral Kralvin reviewed his forces with satisfaction. The Sorrow species had led Council military operations for 3 centuries. They understood warfare, honor, and the proper application of force. Earth would see their fleet, understand their hopeless position, and surrender. It was inevitable. The Council fleet emerged from jump space at the edge of Earth's solar system in perfect formation. 500 warships representing the military might of 40 different species, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that pulsed in coordinated patterns. Admiral Kralvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant Will, and surveyed the system ahead. Empty. Scan results, he demanded. His sensor officer, a multi-eyed creature from the Vorath species, studied the displays. No military signatures detected, Admiral. We are picking up civilian traffic around Earth and its moon, but no warships. They may have retreated to defensive positions closer to the planet. Kralvin nodded. It made sense. The humans knew they could not win in open space, so they would cluster around their homeworld and hope their desperation would stay the Council's hand. It would not. Advance to Mars orbit, standard approach formation, maintain shields at full power. The fleet moved forward, a wall of vessels that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. They passed the outer planets without incident, their sensors probing ahead for any sign of resistance. There was nothing. Even the asteroid belt showed only standard mining activity, automated drones moving between rocks without any indication of military presence. They have abandoned the field without a fight, Kralvin's second officer observed. Perhaps they are wiser than we thought. Kralvin said nothing. Wisdom would have been evacuating their illegal colonies immediately. This felt wrong, but he could not identify why. His instincts, honed over 200 years of military service, whispered warnings his logic could not support. They crossed Mars orbit. Space changed. The asteroids were not asteroids. The mining drones were not drones. The empty void around them suddenly filled with contacts as thermal signatures bloomed into existence. Hundreds of ships, then thousands, appearing from stealth positions that had hidden them perfectly until the Council fleet was surrounded. Ambush, the sensor officer screamed. Contacts on all vectors. They were hiding in the rocks, using the asteroids as cover. The human fleet did not look like Council vessels. They were smaller, angular things built from sharp lines and dark armor. They had no visible shields, just layered plates that covered their hulls like the scales of some predatory creature. And they moved fast, breaking from their hiding positions in coordinated swarms that closed the distance with terrifying speed. "All ships engage targets, fire at will," Kralvin ordered. The Council fleet opened fire, energy weapons lancing through space in brilliant streams of coherent light. The beams struck human vessels and splashed across their armor, burning through the outer layers but not stopping them. The humans did not slow down. They came in harder, closer, weaving through the Council formation like predators attacking a herd. Then they fired back. The weapons were not energy-based. They were solid rounds, massive slugs of dense metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed by magnetic rails. The railgun rounds hit Council ships and did not disperse against shields. They punched through them. Energy barriers designed to deflect and absorb beam weapons had no answer for kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic velocities. The first wave of Council ships died in seconds. Hulls ruptured, atmospheres venting into space, crews lost before they understood what was happening. The human vessels did not stop to confirm kills. They were already moving to their next targets, flowing around the Council formation like water around rocks. "Reform the line," Kralvin shouted. "Concentrate fire, bring the capital ships to bear." The Council fleet tried to adapt, tried to bring their superior firepower to focus on the swarming enemy. But the humans were not fighting the way the Council expected. They were not maintaining formation or holding territory. They were hunting, using the debris field they were creating as additional cover, coordinating their attacks through data networks that updated faster than Council communication systems. A human destroyer dove past the dominant will, so close that Kralvin could see the scoring on its hull where previous battles had left their marks. It fired a spread of railgun rounds into a Council cruiser, the impacts tearing through the ship's engineering section. Secondary explosions rippled along the cruiser's length before it broke apart. "We need to retreat," Kralvin's second officer said, his voice tight with fear. "We have lost over 100 ships. The formation is collapsing." Kralvin watched another section of his fleet disappear under coordinated human fire. Pride warred with survival instinct. The Sorrows did not run from battle, but they also did not waste lives in fights that could not be won. "All ships fall back to jump positions. Fighting retreat, cover each other." He turned to his communications officer. "Send a priority message to Unity Station. Earth has a hidden military fleet, numbers unknown but significant. Their technology is specifically designed to counter our doctrine. Recommend immediate strategic reassessment." The Council fleet began its withdrawal, ships covering each other as they pulled back toward the edge of the system. The humans pursued, but not aggressively. They were letting ships escape, Kralvin realized. They could have pressed the attack and destroyed his entire fleet. Instead, they were allowing a controlled retreat. They wanted survivors. They wanted the Council to know what happened here. As the dominant will prepared to jump, Kralvin took one last look at the battle space. Debris floated everywhere, the remains of 300 Council ships drifting in the darkness. 300 ships destroyed in less than an hour by an enemy that was supposed to be primitive and weak. The jump drive engaged, pulling his flagship back into the safety of jump space. But safety was an illusion now. Earth had proven they could fight, and more importantly, they had proven they were willing to. The Council had awakened something it did not understand, something that had been preparing for this moment since first contact. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Wang watched the Council fleet retreat and allowed herself a small smile. The battle had cost Earth 160 ships, 160 crews that would never go home, but they had sent a message that would echo across the galaxy. "Recall all squadrons," she ordered. "Begin recovery operations for survivors, ours and theirs, and someone get me a channel to Premier Carter. She needs to know we won." Her communications officer looked up. "Ma'am, We are receiving a transmission from one of the retreating council ships. Text only, encrypted on a channel we gave to diplomatic contacts. Wang frowned. Display it. The message was short from someone named Tillich. It said simply, "You were right to prepare, but this is only the beginning. Solvin will not accept defeat. Be ready." Wang deleted the message and turned back to the tactical display. The analyst was right. They had won the battle, but the war was just starting. The council chamber had never been so loud. 200 species shouted simultaneously, their translation networks struggling to keep up with the chaos. Representatives demanded explanations, pointed fingers, or simply sat in stunned silence. At the center of it all, High Arbiter Solvin gripped his throne with all 4 arms, his plates cycling through colors so rapidly they seemed to strobe. "Order," he bellowed, his voice cutting through the noise. "I will have order in this chamber." The shouting gradually died down, replaced by an angry murmur that rolled through the tiers like distant thunder. Kralvin stood at the central podium, his scales dulled with shame, forced to report his failure to the very beings he had promised victory. 300 ships lost, a representative from the Kalish Unity said, her voice cold. 300 crews. How many of them were my people, Admiral? 47, Representative. I offer my deepest. Save your regrets. She cut him off. Explain how a species that has been in space for barely a generation destroyed 60% of our enforcement fleet. Kralvin brought up the tactical recordings, the images appearing in the air above the podium. The council watched in silence as the ambush unfolded, as human ships emerged from hiding and tore through their formation with brutal efficiency. "They were waiting for us," Kralvin explained. "Every aspect of their strategy was designed to counter our doctrine. They studied us, learned our patterns, and built their entire military to exploit our weaknesses." "Impossible," Solvin said. "We have thousands of years of military tradition. They have decades." "Which means they learned from our mistakes without making them themselves." This came from Tillich, speaking from his position in the analyst section. Several representatives turned to look at the small print. Humans have extensive military history from before they reached space. They understand warfare in ways we have forgotten because we have not faced a peer opponent in centuries. "They are not a peer opponent." Solvin slammed one arm against his throne. "They are primitives who got lucky with one ambush. We will gather a larger fleet, approach more carefully, and crush them properly." "With what ships, High Arbiter?" The Kalish representative gestured at the damage reports. "You just lost the core of our rapid response force. It will take months to assemble another fleet of that size, and every species here is now questioning whether they want to commit more vessels to this conflict." "Then we will wait months. Earth must be brought to heel, or every other species will think they can challenge council authority." The chamber doors opened without warning, interrupting the argument. No alarm sounded, no announcement was made. The holographic display system simply activated, showing a figure standing in the center of the chamber. Ambassador David Ross appeared life-sized, his image solid enough to seem real, his dark blue uniform crisp and formal. "Ambassador Ross," Solvin said slowly, "this is a closed council session. Your presence is not authorized." "Your authorization is no longer relevant to me, High Arbiter." Ross looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as possible. "I am broadcasting this message simultaneously to every world in council space. Every citizen, every government, every species will see what I am about to show you." The holographic display shifted, showing footage from Redstone. The council members watched as the colony died, as people ran and fell and burned. Children crying for parents who could not save them. Teachers trying to shield students with their own bodies. 17 minutes of death delivered from orbit without warning or mercy. "This is what you call enforcement," Ross said quietly. "This is what you call maintaining order. 3,000 human lives ended because of regulations we were never informed about, in territories you claimed were protected but never bothered to mark clearly. The footage shifted again, now showing the battle at Earth. But Ross did not focus on the human victory. Instead, he showed something else. Council crews abandoning their ships, sending distress signals, floating in space waiting to die. And then human rescue vessels arriving, pulling survivors from the wreckage, providing medical care, treating the wounded. These are the crews we captured, Ross continued. 4,000 Council military personnel from 24 different species. We could have left them to die in the void. We could have executed them as war criminals for the attack on Redstone. We did neither. We gave them medical treatment, we fed them, and we are returning them safely to their home worlds as we speak. Solvin's plates went dark with rage. You dare. I dare because you forced me to. Ross's voice was steel wrapped in ice. You killed our innocent. We defeated your guilty. Yet we showed mercy to those who surrendered because we understand the difference between justice and vengeance. Can you say the same, High Arbiter? The chamber was absolutely silent now. Even the translation networks seemed to hold their breath. Earth has terms, Ross said. Full reparations for Redstone Colony to be paid by the Council Treasury. A formal apology from this body for the unauthorized attack. High Arbiter Solvin and Admiral Kralvin to stand trial for war crimes. And guaranteed sovereignty for all human territories with no interference from Council enforcement. Unacceptable, Solvin rose from his throne. We will never submit to such demands from a species as young as yours. Then we will continue this war. Ross looked directly at Solvin. And let me be very clear about what that means. Earth can build ships faster than you can replace them. We have resources you have not discovered, technologies you have not considered, and a population that is very, very angry about what you did to Redstone. You saw what we did to your fleet when you had the advantage of numbers and experience. Imagine what we will do when we bring our full strength to bear. The hologram shifted one more time, showing something new. Human shipyards in the outer solar system, massive construction facilities building vessels at an impossible rate, production lines that ran 24 hours a day, resources flowing from asteroid mines and ice harvesters. The scale of it was staggering. You thought we had 300 ships, Ross said. We let you think that because it served our purposes. The truth is, we have been preparing for this moment since the day we met you. We hoped it would never come, but when you killed our people, you made the choice for us. Ross clasped his hands behind his back, the gesture somehow more threatening than any weapon. You have 48 hours to respond to our terms. Accept them, and this war ends with minimal bloodshed. Reject them, and we will show the galaxy exactly what humanity is capable of when we stop holding back. Choose wisely, High Arbiter, because this is the only offer you will receive. The hologram vanished, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Solvin paced his private chambers, all four arms gesturing wildly as he raged at his advisors. The 48 hours had passed. Earth's terms remained unacceptable. He had spent 2 days trying to rally the council members, trying to rebuild their confidence, trying to convince them that humanity could still be defeated with proper planning. Half the council wanted to accept the terms. Half wanted to investigate further before committing to either war or peace. Only a handful still supported Solvin's position, and even they were wavering. We need a decisive show of force, Solvin insisted. Something that proves Earth is not invincible. If we retreat now, if we accept their demands, the Council's authority will never recover. His military advisor, a veteran commander from the Nexian Collective, shook his head. High Arbiter, we barely have enough ships to defend Council space if other threats emerge. Every species is holding back their fleets now, afraid of what Earth might do. We cannot assemble another attack force. Then we will use what we have. Gather every available ship from every willing species. I will lead the fleet personally. When the Council sees me standing firm against Earth, they will remember their courage." The advisor wanted to argue further but recognized the futility. Solvin had made his decision. Pride and fear had locked together in his mind, creating a determination that no logic could break. Within days, a second council fleet assembled. It was smaller than the first, only 200 ships, but it included Solvin's personal flagship and vessels from the most militarily powerful species. The fleet departed Unity Station with great ceremony. Broadcasts showing Solvin in full regalia addressing his forces. It was meant to project strength and inevitability. Instead, it looked desperate. Tillich watched the fleet leave and encrypted another message to Earth. This time, he included not just tactical data but personal logs from various crew members. Soldiers who did not want to fight, engineers who questioned the mission, officers who privately doubted Solvin's judgment. The Council fleet was already fracturing from within, held together only by tradition and the fear of showing weakness. Earth's response surprised everyone. Instead of marshaling their hidden fleets for another battle, instead of preparing ambushes or defensive positions, Earth sent a single ship to intercept Solvin's fleet. It was a diplomatic vessel, small and unarmed, broadcasting on all frequencies with a simple message: request for parley under flag of truce. "Ignore it," Solvin ordered from his flagship's bridge. "They are trying to buy time or trick us into lowering our guard." But then the transmission included a passenger manifest. The diplomatic ship carried Premier Helen Carter herself, accompanied only by a small security detail and Ambassador Ross. The leader of Earth, the woman who had ordered the defense of the solar system, was putting herself directly in front of a Council fleet that could destroy her ship with a single shot. "It is a trap," Solvin's tactical officer said. "It has to be. Or it is an opportunity." Solvin studied the diplomatic vessel on his displays. If he destroyed it, if he killed Earth's premier, the war would escalate beyond any chance of negotiation. The Council would fracture completely, and Earth would have justification for total retaliation. But if he ignored her, he looked weak. "Open a channel. Let us hear what she has to say." Carter's face appeared on the main display, her expression calm and professional. "High Arbiter Solvin, thank you for agreeing to speak with me." "I agreed to nothing. You placed yourself in weapons range and demanded attention. State your purpose quickly before I lose patience." "My purpose is simple. I want to speak to your crews, not to you." Carter shifted her gaze, looking past Solvin as if she could see through the display to the thousands of beings manning the fleet around him. "I am broadcasting this on all frequencies, to every ship in your fleet. I want them to hear what I have to say." "You have no authority to." "You came here to make war on Earth," Carter interrupted, her voice rising. "You came here because one man, your High Arbiter, refused to accept accountability for murdering 3,000 of my people. He refused to apologize. He refused to make things right. Instead, he gathered you, pulled you from your homes and your families, and sent you to fight a war that serves no purpose except his pride." Solvin slammed his arms against his command chair. "Silence this transmission. Cut the channel." But his communications officer looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, she is broadcasting on emergency frequencies. Every ship in the fleet can hear her. I cannot block it without shutting down all communications." Carter continued, her words reaching across space to every crew member in the Council fleet. "You are soldiers. You follow orders. I understand that. But I also know that many of you do not want to be here. You have families waiting for you, lives you would rather be living. You are fighting because you were told to, not because Earth wronged you personally." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Earth has no quarrel with you. We do not hate you. We do not want to kill you. We want justice for what was done to Redstone, and we want to make sure it never happens again. That is all. If you turn around now, if you refuse this mission, we will let you go home safely. No attacks, no pursuit, just go home." "Do not listen to her," Solvin shouted to his fleet. "She is trying to break our unity. Any ship that abandons this mission will face council justice. Will they, Carter asked quietly, or will they face your justice, High Arbiter, because I think your crews are starting to understand the difference. You want them to die for your reputation. We are offering them life, which sounds like the better choice. On ships throughout the fleet, crews looked at each other. They looked at their commanders. They looked at the small diplomatic vessel floating ahead of them, vulnerable and alone, carrying a leader brave enough to face them personally, while their own leader hid behind threats and tradition. The first ship to break formation was a destroyer from the Kalish Unity. Its commander broadcast a simple message: "We are going home. This is not our war." Then another ship turned away, and another. Salvin watched in horror as his fleet dissolved around him. Dozens of vessels breaking formation, powering down weapons, broadcasting their withdrawal. His orders, his threats, his appeals to duty and honor, all of them fell on ears that had heard something more compelling: the truth. "Stop them," Salvin screamed. "Fire on the deserters, make an example." But his own crew did not move. His weapons officer, his tactical officer, even his second-in-command stood frozen, staring at him with expressions that mixed pity and disgust. Finally, his executive officer stepped forward. "No, High Arbiter, we will not fire on our own people, and we will not fire on that diplomatic vessel. You led us into an unjust war, and Premier Carter just gave everyone a way out. We are taking it." He gestured to the security personnel on the bridge. "Place the High Arbiter under arrest. Confine him to quarters." Salvin struggled as they restrained him, his plates flashing through every color of rage and denial. "You cannot do this. I am the High Arbiter. I command this fleet." "You commanded this fleet," the executive officer corrected. "Now you are just a war criminal awaiting trial. Take him away." The Galactic Council chamber felt different now. The seats were the same, the architecture unchanged, but something fundamental had shifted in the months since Salvin's arrest. Representatives who had once postured and threatened now spoke with careful respect. The chamber that had dismissed Earth's complaints now listened when humans spoke. Ambassador David Ross stood at the central podium once more, but this time he was not alone. Premier Helen Carter stood beside him, along with representatives from a dozen other newer species that had joined the Council in recent decades. Together, they presented a reform proposal that would have been unthinkable a year ago. The interim High Arbiter, a cautious being from the Prin named Senior Analyst Tillich who had been promoted after Salvin's removal, reviewed the proposal one more time before addressing the chamber. The representatives propose fundamental changes to Council enforcement procedures, independent review boards, mandatory communication of regulations to all member species, proportional response requirements, and representation for species regardless of how long they have been Council members. These changes undermine the efficiency that has kept the Council functioning for millennia, a representative from one of the founding species argued. "We cannot question every enforcement action, or we will be paralyzed by bureaucracy." Ross stepped forward. "The system you had was not efficient. It was complacent. You enforced rules without communicating them. You punished violations without considering context. You murdered 3,000 human civilians because nobody bothered to check if we had been properly informed about territorial restrictions. And when we objected," Carter added, "you dismissed us as newcomers who needed to learn our place. That attitude cost you hundreds of ships and thousands of lives. It fractured your military alliance and exposed how fragile Council unity actually was. Change is not optional anymore. It is survival." The vote took 3 hours of debate. In the end, the reforms passed by a narrow margin, not because the Council had suddenly become enlightened, but because Earth had proven they could back their demands with force if necessary. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Might did not make right, but right backed by might could change the world. Salvin's trial took place on Unity Station under the new independent review system. The evidence was overwhelming. Recordings of the Redstone attack, testimony from survivors, logs showing he had ordered the bombardment without attempting communication or warning. His defense argued tradition and precedent, claiming he had acted within his authority as High Arbiter. The tribunal disagreed. Salvin was sentenced to life imprisonment on a council penal world, stripped of his titles and authority. Admiral Kralvin received a lighter sentence, 10 years. With recognition that he had been following orders and had shown honor by reporting his defeat accurately. Earth's reparations were paid in full. The Council Treasury transferred resources, technology, and territory rights to human control. It hurt the Council's pride more than their economy, but that was precisely the point. Actions had consequences, even for the powerful. Redstone Colony rose from the ashes over the following year. Council construction teams worked alongside human engineers, rebuilding the settlement as a joint project. The new colony was larger, more advanced, and designed to be a symbol of cooperation rather than division. A memorial stood at the center, listing every name of those who died in the attack. Both human and alien visitors came to pay respects, many leaving flowers or small tokens. On the first anniversary of the attack, a ceremony was held at the memorial. Representatives from Earth and the Council attended, along with families of the victims. Ross stood with his brother-in-law, who had lost his wife in the bombardment. Carter gave a speech about remembrance and moving forward. The words were diplomatic and proper, but everyone present understood the real message. This must never happen again. After the ceremony, Ross walked through the rebuilt colony with Tillich, the small Prin who had risked everything to warn Earth about the Council's plans. The analyst had become an unlikely friend during the peace negotiations, his dedication to truth and information making him valuable to both sides. "Your people rebuilt well," Tillich observed, watching children play in a courtyard where bombs had fallen a year before. "But the scars remain." "They always do," Ross agreed. "We lost people we can never replace, but we made sure their deaths meant something. The Council will think twice before attacking anyone without cause now." Some species resent Earth for that. They see the reforms as human arrogance, forcing the galaxy to change according to your values. Then they are welcome to try changing things back. Ross smiled slightly. They will find we are very good at defending what we believe in. They walked in silence for a while, reaching the colony's edge where construction was still ongoing. Beyond the settlement, the red desert stretched to the horizon, harsh and beautiful. Earth had chosen this world because it reminded them of home, because it challenged them, because humans thrived in difficult places. "What will Earth do now?" Tillich asked. "You have your justice, you have your reforms, you have proven your strength. What comes next?" Ross considered the question carefully. "We build, we trade, we explore. We become the species we want to be, not the species the Council tried to make us. And if anyone threatens our people again, we remind them what happened to those who tried before." That sounds like a promise of peace, backed by the threat of war. That is exactly what it is. The galaxy respects strength. We will be strong, but we will also be fair, compassionate, and willing to cooperate with those who treat us with respect. Ross turned to look at Tillich. "Your people helped us when they did not have to. Earth remembers that. If the Prin ever need assistance, you have allies now." Tillich's expression was hard to read, but his voice carried warmth. "The Prin have been neutral for centuries. It feels strange to have allies, but also good. Thank you, Ambassador." Back on Unity Station, the Council continued its work under the new system. Committees reviewed enforcement procedures. Representatives debated policy with input from newer species. The machinery of galactic government ground forward, slower now but more just. Earth's fleet remained on high alert, stationed throughout human space and some key trade routes. They had proven themselves in battle and now worked to prove themselves in peace. Human ships escorted merchant convoys, responded to pirate threats, and provided disaster relief to species that requested help. The galaxy watched Earth with a mixture of respect, fear, and curiosity. The newcomers had arrived on the galactic stage and immediately changed the rules through force of will and force of arms. Some species saw this as dangerous. Others saw it as necessary. All of them understood that the balance of power had shifted. On Earth, Carter stood in her office and looked at reports from across human space. Colonies were thriving. Trade was expanding. The military remained strong but was not needed for conquest or suppression. For the first time since first contact, humanity could breathe easily, knowing they had earned their place among the stars not through submission but through strength and principle. She thought about the cost, the ships lost at Earth's defense, the crews that never came home, her sister's voice cutting off mid-scream. Justice had been achieved, but it could not bring back the dead. The intercom chimed. "Premier, Ambassador Ross is here for your meeting." "Send him in." Ross entered and took his customary seat. They had work to discuss, treaties to negotiate, the endless business of running a spacefaring civilization. But first, they allowed themselves a moment of quiet reflection. "We did it," Ross said finally. "We made them listen." "We did, and we will keep making them listen for as long as necessary." Outside the window, the lights of Earth gleamed against the darkness of space. Humanity had climbed from the caves to the stars, surviving every challenge through adaptation and determination. The galaxy had tried to teach them their place. Instead, Earth taught the galaxy a different lesson, that justice, backed by strength and tempered with mercy, could change even the oldest and most rigid systems. The Council would never forget what happened when they underestimated humanity, and Earth would never forget the price of freedom.